This video is going to be about working through the poster, and in this case we're going to be using clipping masks when we go into Photoshop. So if I jump into my Illustrator page, I've got my whakatauki here, and down here I've got my thumbnail. Now the whakatauki I've broken up into a number of areas. So this one talks about thunder, to the sky, to the iwi, arawa, and then the land. So I've got it kind of broken up. So I've got a rough thumbnail here where I'm kind of sketching it out, and what I'm going for is this idea that we're going to end up having something bulky at the top for the thunder, and then some text or something coming down, and then we're going to have the bit about the iwi, about te arawa. So we're going to have the setup like this, and so I've got a rough thumbnail, and you can see with this one I'm starting to dissect it up a wee bit more. So the type at the top and working it through. So with that in mind, let's have a go. So the first one I'm going to grab is I'm going to grab this word, whaitiri. So this word is thunder. I'm going to have a look and see if there's a bolder, bold italic. I might go for this one. Condensed black just seems to be a little bit stronger. So in this case, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get this, and I'm going to go type, create outlines. Once I've got that, I can ungroup it, and all these letter forms are going to be separate now. So I'm going to separate it out into this, and then I'll go Command G, which is group, and then I'll grab this. Command G is a group as well. So I'll move this out of the way, and this one, I'm just going to expand it right up. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go to the Shear Tool, and holding the Shift key, oopsie, I'm going to constrain it, but I'm not worried about whether it's readable or not. I'm just creating the shapes. This one here, same thing as well. And I'll try the same thing. I'll try giving it a wee bit of shear. I can double click on it as well, and that way I can kind of control it a wee bit more. I'll go with that. Okay. And I'm just moving this so I don't get these kind of little awkward shapes. I'm moving this a bit so the white is a wee bit more noticeable there. I'll select all of it, and then with the shape builder, I'm just going to join these things together. So that I've got one nice clean bit of text. With this, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to jump into Photoshop. So I've got a page here set up as A3. When I paste it, I want it to come in as a smart object. And that simply means that I can go Command T, and I can scale it, and I don't have to worry about any kind of disintegration of the image. I'm going to push that so there's no little white space here. Move it up a wee bit, and I'm going to go with that. So again, I can jump back into Illustrator. So in this case, I'll be to and fro between the two here, and I'm going to do. I'll grab the here, I could either type it into Photoshop, or I can just type, create outline, copy, jump back into Photoshop, and I'm going to paste it. Smart object, and in this case I'm going to go Command T, and I'm just going to kind of move it along here somewhere. So I want it fairly small and insignificant and on the right angle, so Command T, scale it a wee bit more, and I'm going to rotate it, hit return, and just slot that there. For Teddy as well, I might have that written somewhere as well. This one here, actually, rather than it going up, I'm going to rotate it and spin it around, even though it's kind of upside down. It gives direction. It looks like it's coming down, so it'll look like rain coming down from the thunder. And so I'm going to do the same thing with Teddy. I'll grab that text, copy that. Oh, actually, just before I do, type, create outlines, copy, back into Photoshop, paste it, and again I'm going to spin it, and I'm going to put it right in that gap, so I'm going to have to, actually the angle looks pretty good. Use my arrow keys if I want to get it a bit more. Maybe that angle is just slightly off. Okay, that's good. So now if I jump over into Illustrator, I've got this thing here where it looks like lines coming down on the thumbnail. So I'm going to create a little bit of rain. And the way I'm going to do this is if I drag a line, I'm going to make it a fill of none, a line of black. I can make it a bit bigger. If I go to the stroke panel, I can round the edges if I want. And then I'm going to go to Effect. There's an option here that talks about Distort and Transform. If I go to Zigzag, I can put in the number of ridges. I can put in how big I want those ridges to be. And then I've got an option here that says Smooth. So I quite like that. Take the size down a little bit of those ridges, maybe up a little bit, and I'll go OK. Now you can see there's a line going through here, and if I went Command Y, you would see that nothing's happened. So the first thing I need to do is I need to go Object, Expand the Appearance. So now I can see it, but it's still a thin line. So the same way I do with the type, I need to copy that outside shape. So if I go Object, and I go down to Path, there's an option here that says Outline the Stroke. Now this is very much, when I go Command Y again, it's very much what you see is what you get. So I'll copy that, I'll jump into Photoshop, paste it, Smart Object, great. rotate it, try and get the angle a wee bit better. And now I've got that. So with this, I can option, grab it, scale it, smaller one, hit return, option, oops, option, copy it again, and maybe I'll put it here, hold down the option key, drag another one around, and option key, oops, have to grab the right one, so I'll click on the layer, option, grab this bigger one again, and I'll run it in there. So it looks like it's running off that letter form and coming all the way down. What I might do as well is I still have the option with these to go make a mask. I get a black paintbrush. It's a hard brush, I can see that, and black is going to mask it out. So I can get that, and if I come in here, maybe I'll take it right up, the size down a wee bit, and I'm just going to see if I can kind of manually change this and round it off a wee bit rather than having it go all the way up. So that's starting to look pretty interesting. Now with these, at the moment the smart objects, so if I shift, click on all of them, and I go layer, rasterize, smart objects, now I can just go, I can click on the top one, go Command E, keep going Command E. It's going to preserve the mask. If I hit that, Command E, and now I've got all of these on one layer, which I'm a bit keen on. I could have just put them in a group, but I'll have them all on one layer for the time being. Now I'm going to give this a bit of a colour, so I'll double click here. Choose some kind of colour that I like. Option delete. So holding down the option or the alt key and hitting backspace or delete is just filling it all with that colour. If I want to be able to colour it, the easiest way is to change this here. So what I want to do is I want to rasterize this one as well. I've got it in the size and everything I want, and now I can come in here and I can colour it. If I double clicked on it, it's just going to jump me back to Illustrator, and I'd rather do the colouring in here. So I pick a darker colour. If I want to keep the transparency, I go Option or Alt, I hold the Shift key, and it's the Shift key that's letting me keep that transparency. Now you can see up here that there's a bit that I've kind of missed out on, but I'll do the same thing here. I'll just go Option Shift Delete. So this is the same kind of colour as what we've got here. At the moment I'll leave the smaller lettering as black. Now the clipping mask functionality, if I go File and I go Open, and I'm just going to look at the Whakatauki, and I've got monoprint. So these are some where you can kind of see down the edge where I've just got all these different kind of textures that I've been working on. So I'm going to go with something like this one. I'll go open. While I've got the arrow key, I can just click, drag onto the other tab. When the image comes up, drag it onto the page and let go. And this is just going to add this over the top. Now, what I can do here is I can drag this down so it's just above the text for Teddy. Hold down the Option key between the two and I get this little arrow and click. And it clips it so that one thing is inside the other. But what I will do now is I'll click on this, and you can see as I go down, I can control some of those options. So it's just clipping in between. The one I'm going to go for is I'm going to go for a soft light. Now, it does change the colouring of the other lettering a wee bit. Now, with this one, rather than using the non-destructive one, down here the option, I am going to use the destructive one on this monoprint. So if I come up here, Image, Adjustments, and I'll go to Levels, and it's just the way it affects it. If I clip it, it's kind of affecting the text underneath. If I've got it just on this, it's just affecting the monoprint. So you'll see if I pull this in and give contrast, it's changing the qualities here. I can move that middle slider to darken things up overall. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing the black slider down, giving more contrast, and with this slider, if it goes more to the white, it's going to darken everything up overall. So I'm going to keep it at about that quality. If I go OK, now these lines up here, I want them to be kind of tie in a little bit better. So if I go I for the eyedropper, I can click one of these colors, Option Shift Delete, and kind of marry it in a wee bit more. I might want the lighter color, Option Shift Delete, and work out which one I think looks a bit nicer. Maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it light like this, and then I'm going to click on the darker color, and with the paintbrush I'll click on those lines and I'll lock transparency, and this just means I can color these lines. You can see with this one I can kind of let it drift into the lighter blue. And while I've got that color there, I'm going to rasterize these two bits of text. Rasterize those smart objects, and I'm just going to fill them with that darker color as well. Okay, so I'm starting to build something up here. So if I jump back to Illustrator, just going to get rid of that. I'll bring in a bit of a curve. I don't want there to be any fill or line. And if I click and hold down on the Type tool, I've got Type on a path. And you can see when I click here, it's going to give me a bit of lorem ipsum. So I'm just going to write Kitarangi. I'm going to put a bit more space. Oh, actually I'll highlight all of the text. I'll go to the character and I'll use the range kerning. Let's go 200 and maybe I'm going to put in 300. Maybe a few more spaces in between. Oops. It was a wee bit too much. So I've got a bit of a curve. I can still come in here and with the direct selection tool I can click on this path and change the angles of these curves a wee bit if I want, but I quite like it the way it is. Same thing, I click on this, type, create an outline, copy into Photoshop, paste it, it'll paste as a smart object, which gives me the option to scale it, get it looking right. It's probably a wee bit too big. Maybe I want to rotate it again so it looks like it's falling down. And I'll just use the arrow keys to try and line it up a wee bit with the corner of this so it looks like it's got a kind of a bit of movement or a line running down. Now I'm going to click here and I'm just going to make a bit of a base. I'm just going to get the square marquee tool. Choose a colour. Maybe I'm going to pick something a bit brighter this time. Option delete. Oh, actually, it's a terrible colour. Option delete. And I'm going to make a new layer again. Draw a square. Option delete. Command T. I'm just going to hold down the shift key so I get it looking like a triangle. Command D. That looks fairly centered. Maybe I'll move it so that it looks like this is kind of running down to it. Try scaling it. So I'm getting something that looks like a mountain, but it's on a wee bit more of an angle to tie in with this text. Back into Illustrator. I grab this text. I'm going to make it a little bit solider. I'm going to make it the same kind of condensed black. And I'm going to get the type tool. And if I click between the letters, I can hold down the option key and just bump some of those letter forms into the W. Could be moved in a bit closer, as could the A. And that's looking a wee bit better. Now I can get that, type, create outlines, copy it, jump into Photoshop, and paste. It's a smart object, it's up the top. Gonna scale it. Now with this, I'm going to use a mask. So again, even as a smart object, I should be able to add a mask on there, and I'm just going to see how much I can chop out. So I've got Option black, black's the top color, so Option delete, Command D. So I still at that stage think it's reasonably readable. I'm going to just make a very thin dark line. I'll change it back to black. Option delete, Command D, and I'm just going to use the arrow keys and bump that up. Now the next bit is I've got Hue and Saturation. So again, before I move it over, I'm just going to have a look at the kerning, and the big one you can see is the A and the U. It's way off. So if I put the type tool there, Option key, let's move it in a bit. That's a bit far away. Just going to tighten everything up a little bit. It looks better. And let's just go copy. Might not even need to convert it to a path. No, I can bring it in as a smart object. And I'm going to hit return, and with this one, again, I can make a mask, and I'm going to try and chop a little bit off the top. How much do you need where it's still readable? Okay, so I'm going to go with that. I know it chops the top of the T off, but I think you still get the gist of what's going on there. Now with this, what I was do is I grab these 3 layers, I click the folder, I make a group, so everything's in that group. Now if I go Command T, I can scale it, and I'm just scaling everything within that group. The reason I'm doing that is it has this boldness against the Hue and Saturation, but it also now has an element of negative space or white space around this lettering, so it's starting to look a little better. I'm going to make a new layer again. This I'm just going to make a shape. Click I for the eyedropper tool, and I'm going to make it yellow. Option delete, and then Command D. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Option key, Shift. Oops. I'm going to click on that layer, hold down the Option key, click on it, Shift. Do the same thing again. Maybe this one I'll drag off a wee bit further. All of these I'll go Command. Actually, I can click on the Shift key, all of them. Click on this little hamburger menu. You can't see it, but there's an option that says Merge Layers, and it gets them all together. Command T, rotate them a bit, try and replicate those angles, and again with a mask, make a mask with the selection tool. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut the top off them so they're all nice and flat, and the way I'll do that is just Option Delete with the black, Command D, and you get this, because this space out here was looking a little bit odd. This kind of lines up with the top of that triangle, and so you're starting to get something that is a little more interesting. So with the blue, maybe I'm going to bring in a wee bit more texture, and so what I'll do is I'll go File, Open. I've got my monoprints again, so I'll look through this, and maybe this one looks pretty interesting. Just going to open this up, select all. Oh, actually I can just again with the arrow tool, grab it, drag it up to the right tab, bring it in, drop it. So put that there, Command T, just going to drag it around a bit, and it almost looks like lightning kind of coming down. Maybe I can spin it all the way around, a bit further, and now it may start to look like a bit of a lightning strike coming down. So I've got that. Again, we've got these options where I can go through, darken, multiply. You can see it is having an effect on that background color. Usually soft light is the one that works pretty well, but I can go through them and see what I like and what I don't. And I quite like the way that hard light looks. I know that I can, with this one I can go Control L, and I can pull that down a wee bit. And actually sometimes these odd bits where the scan from the paper kind of darken up can end up looking pretty good. So go OK with that. I've got my opacity as well, so I can play with that and really knock it down if I want. I quite like the slightly grungier aesthetic that's coming back through. It might be that I want to change the color of this text. So let's see what happens if I change it to a yellow. Oh, that's a bit rough there. Yeah, maybe that's a wee bit too harsh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this kind of light blue color, bring it in that way. Same with this, I'll try the same thing, Option Shift Delete, just softens it down a wee bit. These colours down here, I've got this group. So I've got this group. If I flick it open, I can go Option Shift Delete. Let's just have a look. And it's coloured there. These ones here, if I try going Option Shift Delete, it's not going to do it because they need to be rasterized. So I'm going to click on this one. Oh, go Layer, Rasterize, Smart Object. Same for this one here. Layer, rasterize, smart object, option shift, and that just ties it in a little bit more. I could probably try it with a darker colour, but that's quite nice. Or actually, maybe what we'll do is we'll go I, pick the darker colour, and we'll use that for the line. And not the top text, but the bottom text. So we're getting that kind of darker blue, and we're getting the lighter blue coming through as well. And so this is one way of doing it, like bringing it through from the thumbnails through Illustrator and doing the clipping path stuff. And maybe I'll bring a little bit of texture into the yellow here. So again, open up. You've got your monoprints and all sorts of things. I quite like this. I just want a little wee bit of texture. Scale it, just gonna spin it around. And I can clip it so it's just within that yellow. I can go through and play with the light. Let's just go with darken at the moment. Command L. You can see will let me knock it off by pulling that in. And I can darken that up or keep it nice and light. I can probably also go up to image, just because you can see it's got a bit of colour in there. Go to the Hue and Saturation, because if it's got colour, then I can change it. You can see it's going a bit greeny now. So I'll leave it at that. Saturation, you can drop right off, bump up, and then the darkness is going to bring in that bit around the edge, so I probably can't play with that too much. No, so a subtle way to bring a bit of texture in. This yellow bar over the top, I actually quite like that. If I switch it off, you can see it's nice having those little moments coming over the top. Okay, so that's one way to work it, so we'll stop it there.